Hey you guys, it is Gabrielle Victoria from RisingHighPriestess.com and at Rising High Priestess on Instagram, coming at you today with a little bit of a different energy. First of all, I'm playing with my lights just to create a different type of vibe. Today I will be doing a reading focused on the different elements in the zodiac to give you guys your February predictions. I will be adding this to my YouTube channel as well as my Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy it. I will be starting off with fire signs. I actually already shuffled the cards and was actually doing the reading, and my camera just shut down. So I'm gonna leave them as they are and I'm going to begin again. All right, so the first card that came up is the Five of Cups in regards to my fire signs. The Five of Cups focuses on dwelling and avoidance, these two opposite ends. And so my advice and my prediction for this month will be to make sure you're not dwelling on any past issues that you may have with someone, especially in your partnerships and your relationships. Making sure that you are upfront and direct and not being passive aggressive. And in fire signs, we have to remember that we can be abrasive, you know, we can be really offensive, and sometimes it's just natural because we can be straight shooters. And so you have to kind of create this buffer within yourself when you realize, like, hey, I've crossed the line or I've hurt someone. How can I remedy this? On the opposite side of that, this card also speaks about avoidance, making sure that you're not suppressing your thought, your throat chakra, making sure that you're getting your true feelings out so that you don't allow for that to sit there and stew and brew, because we know what happens when we allow feelings to sit. It becomes worse until we explode. This is something we are trying to avoid during February, especially with Mercury being in retrograde. When it comes to communication, anything that you are sitting on is more than likely going to erupt, and we don't want that during love season, right? So there's a way that we can deliver our message without the emotion and the anger or the rage attached to it. Sit yourself to the side and say, okay, what is it that I'm trying to get across? What message is it that I'm trying to convey to my partner, to my family, or to my friend? And how can I take the personal jabs out of it? How can I take the stinger out of it to where they get the message without the attitude? They get the message without the guilt or without the shame, you know? So be very aware and very intentional of your words and where you're dispersing your energy when it comes to communication. The next card that comes up is the Spirit of Swords. And this deals a lot with your mental space. Your swords is all about your mind, how you're processing what you're thinking, how you're computing things. It makes me think of really Mercury, you know, to be completely honest. The Spirit of Swords is telling you to be eager. To be eager about your ideas. To go after those things with some eagerness and have some excitement. It's okay to look forward to something. It's okay to desire more than what you currently have. You don't have to feel as if your desires and your wants are out of reach or are unnecessary. You know what I mean? And so the Spirit of Swords wants you to have some eagerness, some more pizzazz, and no one does that better than fire signs. No one does pizzazz and excitement over the future than fire signs. It's the passion that fire signs have within. And so you need some of that fire to come back out. This may be about your work, thoughts that you may have or feelings that you may have. You may even be in like a humdrum cycle right now where you're like, you know what, I hate it here, I want to quit, I'm done. And this card is saying, wait, before we do that, remember your why. Let's see if that can reignite your passion. Let's see if your why can bring back that spark inside of you. Okay? So now we get to the Temperance card, and I love the Temperance card because Temperance is all about balance. It's equilibrium and moderation, making sure that you're not overindulging, which, you know, my favorite sign, one of my favorite signs are my favorite Leos. and we can indulge, and I say we because Leo is my rising sign. We can love excess, we can love overindulgence, and just, you know, having multiple things in our reach. And this card is saying to everything in your life there must be balance. Anything in exuberance, anything in large quantities can be bad. Anything, whether it's water, you can drink too much water and cause yourself a world of pain. Whether it's money, sometimes the more money people get, the more complicated their life gets. And so this card is saying, making sure that you're staying in balance and keeping yourself in check. And if you feel that you are unable to do that for yourself, making sure that you have the right people in your life who can be that grounding force for you. What brings you back down to earth? What keeps you in check? We have to think of like the government system, right? When they have the checks and the balances, we have to have that same type of system within ourselves to make sure that we're not getting too full of ourselves and we're not biting off more than we can chew. And most importantly, that we're not being greedy, okay? Because if we're being greedy, we're taking from someone else in that moment. There's enough fair share for everyone. But there's one thing to have your fair share versus your fair share, and then you're trying to take from someone else. So be aware of that behavior. Also be aware of someone trying to do that to you this month. Someone trying to eat from your plate. Be aware of that. We are moving on down the road, fire signs. So now we are getting to, which one do I want to hop to? We have the 10 of Rings in reverse that comes up. And this is speaking about not being satisfied. The 10 of Rings in reverse is a dissatisfaction, a feeling of not being comfortable financially, not being comfortable with where you are monetarily. You may be looking around at your home and saying, you know what, I should be so much further than what I am right now. You know, you may feel like, hey, I've done all this work and I don't have the house of my dreams. You know, fire signs love luxury, and anything in your home that doesn't reflect that energy may be triggering you to feel, I don't want to say ungrateful, but just dissatisfied and just feeling like, you know what, I have to go harder. And you may find yourself pushing yourself even harder this month. Remember what I said about balance and moderation. It's okay to reach for those stars and those dreams, but make sure you're giving yourself enough rest. Make sure that you're giving yourself some time off. It doesn't matter if you're able to work 24 hours a day. It's the quality of the work. Don't try to prove a point to yourself. You have nothing to prove to anyone else. You know the goals that you have. You know what you're trying to do with your life. Everything comes in divine time. So part of the game is being patient, not only with the universe, but being patient with yourself. Because as you're manifesting these things and all these, you know, beautiful luxuries that you want in your life, you're also having to unlearn some things and also having to make room and prepare space for it. And so this card wants you to keep this in mind, that things take time to come together. Just because you can't see it materialize right now in front of you doesn't mean that behind the scenes nothing is happening. That's just your ego telling you that. And that's something fire signs have to be aware of, is our ego. Our ego can really put a psychological clock in our back pocket, and it can really throw off our joy. Nothing can rob a fire sign's joy quicker than feeling as if they're behind in life, or feeling as if they've lost, or they're not going to reach their dreams or their goals. That really, it really does something to the spirit of a fire sign. Have some patience with yourself. Set out a plan of attack. Divide it up in quarters and be like, okay, this first quarter, this is what I want to tackle. This second quarter, this is what I want to happen. This is what I need to happen. The longer you force yourself to try to do everything at once, the more likely things are going to fail. So bite it down, chop it down into bite sizes that you can handle, okay? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. My mama told me that. All right, so we are at the next to last card. This card is the reverse 8 of Wands, and this goes to work. A lot of my fire signs are not making progress on the career front, or when it comes to their businesses. There's a feeling of stagnant. or stagnation. There's a feeling of I'm not in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing or what I'm supposed to be bringing forth into this world. It's a feeling of working backwards. You never heard the saying of hustling backwards? That's the energy of this card, is if you're putting the work in, but it's just not coming together for you. You know, you may have soared really quickly and now you're at the plateau at your job or at your career. And so there's a lot of reassessment that needs to take place during this month. Is this where you want to be? If this is not where you want to be, then let's make a plan to get where you need to be. Because sitting there fuming about being stuck isn't going to get you unstuck, if you get what I mean. You have to have a plan. And also, you can't do everything at once. It's kind of like a double entendre in a weird way, you know? But there's a feeling of discontent right now when it comes to your work. So let's focus on the rest of the year. When do you want to make your way out of where you are? What does your exit strategy look like? What does your future career look like? Or do you want to work for yourself? If so, what do you need to get in place so that that transition can be smooth and less stressful for you? And more importantly, so that financially you're prepared for it. That should be the focus of this card. Not so much, hey, I'm not making progress. Okay, we know that. You know that. But there's only so many times you can give yourself that conversation before you have to come to an understanding of what's next. What's next after this revelation that I'm not where I'm supposed to be, where I am. A plan, an exit strategy, and rebuilding. And the last card that comes up for my fire signs is the King of Wands. The King of Wands speaks to, and this is in reverse, by the way. When it's upright, it speaks of leadership. It speaks of success. This is your natural place. You know, the King of Wands naturally makes me think of a Sagittarius or a Leo. You're meant to be at the head of the table. You're meant to be in that boardroom. You're meant to be the CEO. You're meant to be the leader. And you're not in that space. You're actually trying to force yourself to shrink in order to fit into a smaller space, and it's not working out for you. You haven't made any progress, which goes back to that prior card, that reverse 8 of Wands that came up, this stagnant energy and feeling as if you're not aligned, and it's because you're not in your proper seat. You're not in your proper place. You ever see in a plane, they say, like, you know, they have the manifest, and the manifest tells you where everyone is seated. You're supposed to be at the head, and here you are in the middle somewhere. And you wonder why things are not in alignment for you. And so how can we get you to your proper seat? How can we get you to where you can set yourself up for success? Because your success depends on your leadership abilities and your position to lead. You attempting to gain success by just being in the middle, being one in the herd, going with the program and just being another number is not going to work for you. You have to be at the head. And it doesn't mean you have to be cocky, but this is where you shine. This is where you thrive. It's a natural position for you. So now we have to get you there. So there's a lot of reassessment. There's a lot of planning that needs to go on for the month of February and maybe even into March for you so that you can execute it with ease. And that is my reading for fire signs for February of 2021. Be sure to check me out on risinghighpriestess.com for your one-on-one session, as well as enchanted oils that I create by hand. And check me out on Instagram at risinghighpriestess. Thank you.